Dear boomers, what if the first step isn't in your feet, but in your mind? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I better not go there. I might fall. Or, I should not walk that far anymore. Or, I need someone with me wherever I go. My balance isn't what it used to be. Or maybe you have already fallen. And ever since that fall, something changed within you. You became more cautious, and you became unable to take certain walks or to take risks that you may have taken before. And you started holding on to the furniture. Maybe you stopped going places you used to enjoy. And slowly, without even realizing it, the fear of falling began making your world smaller and smaller. So today, I want to talk about something we don't discuss nearly enough. How do we overcome the fear of falling, especially in our elder years? Because preventing falls is not only about strengthening our legs, we also need to change the way we think about ourselves. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm almost at 1,000. It's taken me years to get here. So when fear becomes your identity? As you may know, I'm a retired nurse after 40 years in healthcare, and today I work with seniors who want something very simple, but incredibly important. They want to remain independent, and they want to stay in their homes. Recently, I took a course through Neuro Change Solutions called Change Your Mind and Create New Results, based on the work of Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm sure I have talked about him here before, but I'm sure you've seen him other places. One of the concepts that really stayed with me was this: if we want to create a different life, we cannot continue being exactly the same person, thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and repeating the same behaviors, and expect a completely different result. We have to begin changing the pattern. And I immediately began thinking about seniors who are afraid of falling. Because fear can become a pattern that is hard to overcome. You may think, what if I fall? And that thought creates an emotion. The thought creates an action of fear and creates the emotion of fear. The emotion changes your behavior. So you move less, you avoid the stairs, you don't take the walk. You do not go outside. And you stop doing those things by yourself. Maybe you just are afraid of going out alone. And here's the problem. The less we move, the weaker we can become. The weaker we become, the less confident we feel. And the less confident we feel, the more afraid we become. It kind of becomes an unending circle of dysfunction. So now we have a cycle: fear, avoidance, less movement, loss of confidence, more fear, avoidance, less movement, loss of confidence, more fear. And eventually we may begin saying, this is just who I am. But is it really? It is not. Your past doesn't have to become your future. Maybe you fell 6 months ago, and maybe you fell last week. That fall was real, but I'm certainly not asking you to pretend it didn't happen. And I'm not suggesting that positive thinking can eliminate medical problems, balance disorders, medication side effects, vision problems, muscle weakness, or hazards in your home. Those things need to be addressed. But there's another question worth asking. Does the fall have to determine who you become next? That is different. And it's a completely different state of mind. Because something happened to you But now your mind may be predicting that it is going to happen again. What if I fall? What if I break my hip? And what if nobody finds me when I do fall, especially, when you live alone? Now, what if I can't live alone anymore is another question. Notice something here. None of those things are happening at this moment. Your mind has traveled into the future of constriction and fear, and your body is experiencing the emotion of an event that hasn't even happened. And that is where awareness becomes incredibly powerful. Instead of automatically believing the thought, you begin observing it. This is that thought again, and there it is. What if I fall? And then ask this question. Is this thought helping me become stronger, or is it teaching my body to remain afraid? And who are you practicing being? We need to practice the person we want to be. Now, this is something I want you to think about. Every day, through our thoughts and behaviors and our emotions, we are practicing being somebody. So who are you practicing being? The frightened version of yourself or the stronger version? Which do you want? It's your choice. The dependent version or the person who is gradually reclaiming independence? The person who says, I can't do that anymore. Or the person who says, let's see what I can safely do today. That one word, safely, is important. We need to be safe. We need to feel safe. This isn't about recklessness. It is about possibility. It is about potential. You don't need to become your old self. There's another distinction I think is so important here. Your goal is not necessarily to become the person you were at 40 or 50 or 60. We're not trying to turn back time. We're asking this question, what do I want to become now in this present moment? Maybe the new you moves more deliberately, and maybe you use a cane without worrying about what other people think. Maybe you use a walker for the same. Do not think about yourself in terms of other people. Maybe you hold the railing. Maybe you do 5 minutes of balance exercises every morning. None of these things represents failure. They are tools. The new personality we are creating isn't someone who says, I will never fall again. None of us can promise that. At any age, actually. The new personality says, I am becoming stronger, more aware, and more confident in my body. That is a completely different identity. So, let's think about this. Stop living through other people's expectations. That was another idea from my Neuro Change Solutions training that struck me. How much of our identity comes from the outside world? Other people's opinions, and from an environment that does not support us, from other people's expectation, other people's ideas about aging. Maybe you've heard you should not be doing that at your age. Sit down and I'll get it. Don't go outside by yourself. Maybe you're getting too old for that. And these are prevalent beliefs in our society, and we do not have to hold on to them as our own. Sometimes these statements come from people who love us, and they're trying to protect us. But if we're not careful, we begin accepting someone else's fear as our identity. We begin thinking these thoughts, maybe they're right. Maybe I am fragile. Maybe I can't trust myself. And maybe My independent years are over. I want you to challenge that because our whole lives depend on it. Not recklessly, not by ignoring legitimate physical limitations, but by asking, what am I actually capable of? Because there's an enormous difference between accepting assistance when you need it and surrendering your entire identity to fear. So mentally rehearse the person you want to become. Now here's an exercise I would like you to try. Before you get out of bed tomorrow morning, don't immediately rehearse your problems. Instead, close your eyes for one moment and imagine yourself getting out of bed calmly, embracing the new day. See yourself standing securely. See yourself walking through your home with awareness. And imagine yourself doing your exercises. See yourself becoming a little stronger. And imagine taking that walk. And imagine yourself moving with confidence rather than constantly anticipating disaster. And then ask this: how would that version of me think? Maybe I trust myself to move carefully. Maybe I am getting stronger and my body can learn. I can improve my balance, or I am improving my balance. I am not defined by what happened yesterday. Then ask, how would that person behave today? Maybe they would do 5 minutes of exercise instead of none. And maybe they would walk to the mailbox, walk up the street and back, go to the park. Maybe they would practice standing from a chair. And maybe they would make an appointment with a physical therapist. And maybe they would remove the throw rug they've nearly tripped over 3 times. And that is where thought becomes action. And think about it this way. If we really are here to enjoy our lives thoroughly with gratitude, then that's the way we need to formulate our future. And this is where my nurse's hat goes firmly back on. Mindset matters, but so does your environment. And look around your home. And are there loose rugs and cords, poor lighting, electrical cords? Are there cluttered pathways? Is there a slippery bathroom? Is there, do you need grab bars? Is there a railing where you need one? And have you had your vision checked? Could one of your medications be making you dizzy? Believe me, that's very possible. Are you getting enough movement to maintain your leg and core strength? Fear is not always irrational. That is the truth. Sometimes it is information. And so instead of allowing fear to control you, use it as information. Ask this: what can I change? That is empowerment. We can change the way we look at things, and the way we look at things change. Confidence is built through evidence. You don't overcome fear simply by telling yourself not to be afraid. You build confidence by giving your brain new evidence. Today I stood up 5 times, and tomorrow I stood up 6. I walked around the block. I went to the park. Today I walked for 3 minutes, and next week I walked for 5. Today I practiced my balance while safely supported, and I did it without fear. Every small success sends a new message. Maybe I can, and every small success deserves a celebration. Tomorrow, I can. I can and I will. And eventually, this is who I am becoming. This is my will to live. The person you are becoming is who you can be in this moment. So I'd like to leave you with something. Instead of waking up tomorrow and asking yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid might happen? Ask yourself this. Maybe, and who would I want to be? Who do I want to be today? Perhaps your answer is this. I am someone who moves my body, who loves myself. I am someone who practices balance. And I am someone who takes responsible precautions without allowing fear to run my life. I am someone who asks for help when I need it, but it doesn't automatically assume I am helpless. And I have always said, asking for help is a spiritual practice. I am someone who is learning, and I am someone who is getting stronger. I am someone who intends to remain independent for as long as I live, or for as long as is possible, and then do one thing that person would do to become as independent, as fearless, and as confident and as motivated. Not 10 things, but just one thing, because transformation doesn't necessarily happen through one giant courageous moment. Sometimes transformation is getting out of the chair and practicing 5 careful sit-to stands with your breathing. And sometimes it's walking another 50 feet. And sometimes it is finally asking your doctor about the dizziness you have been experiencing and asking to check those medicines that you have been prescribed. And sometimes it's removing that rug. And sometimes it's simply catching yourself thinking, I can't. Catch yourself. That is a win. And replacing it with, what can I safely do? And how can I help others see and change their thoughts and change their lives? Our age is a part of our story. Our falls are part of your story, and your medical history is part of this story. But none of those things has to become your entire identity. You are still capable of learning a lot, and you are still capable of creating new habits. You are still capable of becoming stronger. And perhaps most importantly, you are still becoming ... So don't spend every day rehearsing the person you're afraid of becoming. That's a good one. But begin rehearsing the person you want to become and celebrate that person. See that person, think like that person, and then carefully, patiently, one small movement at a time, begin living like that person. So, join the channel, please. I'm soon going to have a program called Steady Path, where we can have daily exercises to remain stable, and the idea is to stay independently in our home. It's designed specifically for seniors who want to remain safe, active, and independent, because the goal is not simply to prevent a fall. It is to live your life as if you love it. You have to love your life. Thank you.